Welcome to Television Sydney News. I'm Bianca Martins. It's great to have you with us. In this week's bulletin, more jobs on the way for the West as a new business park is approved. Police believe the shocking assault and robbery of an elderly Blue Mountains man was targeted, and celebrating the traditional Day of Love. But first, construction began this week to replace the Quakers Hill nursing home destroyed by fire in 2011. The new Hamilton Road home will be 3 times the size of the former facility, where 11 elderly residents died just after dawn on November 18. 32 residents were taken to hospital with serious injuries and 28 have died since. Fire and Rescue New South Wales Commissioner Greg Mullins returned to the site for a sod turning ceremony to mark the beginning of the work.
In contrast to the last time I was here, which was a terribly tragic day, today's a happy day. It's about new beginnings, and one of the great things about this new beginning is this is going to be a showpiece in terms of fire safety. This building will have all of the modern fire safety measures that we recommended, should be in all nursing homes.
Gary Barnier, Managing Director of the Domain Principal Group that owns the home, says the new $25 million building will be ready early next year. It'll boast 79 single and 24 double rooms, a dementia wing for more than 120 residents, and a memorial garden dedicated to the fire's victims. Meanwhile, Roger Dean, a former nurse at the home, has pleaded not guilty to 11 counts of murder and 8 counts of recklessly causing grievous bodily harm in relation to the fire. His case will be heard in the Supreme Court in May. Western Sydney commuters faced extensive delays after 2 garbage trucks collided on Parramatta Road on Friday. One man was trapped after his truck ran into the back of another at Auburn at about 5 a.m, forcing the closure of Parramatta Road for about an hour. Morning commuters faced major delays, with traffic gridlocked on surrounding roads including the M4, and were advised to allow extra travel time. The crash came only a day after New South Wales Premier Barry O'Farrell released the government's 370-page draft Transport Master Plan, supporting a web of motorways to solve Sydney's chronic congestion. A 21-hectare business park has got the green light for a section of Western Sydney parkland. An estimated 950 jobs will be created from the Horsley Drive Business Park in Wetherill Park. Works will start in 8 weeks on the development, which is designed for high-tech businesses and will create revenue for the Western Sydney parklands. Western Sydney Parklands Trust Director Sue Ellen Fitzgerald said about $13.5 million was being invested in the project, injecting more than $80 million to Western Sydney's economy. Police say the cowardly assault of an elderly man during a Blue Mountains home invasion was targeted. The 77-year-old victim was forced to open a safe containing 5 registered handguns and 4 rifles before being beaten and tied up during the attack on Wednesday night.
An incident of this type is very rare for the Blue Mountains, and we believe that it is a targeted attack. It
is believed the man was assaulted with a glass bottle during the attack, and he was taken to Nepean Hospital, where he remained in a stable condition on Thursday.
I'm certain that it's obviously caused him a great degree of distress, and certainly he's being cared for by the appropriate people. And as I said earlier, it's certainly a coward attack on one of our elderly members of the community.
Police believe at least one man is responsible for the attack and have asked anyone with information to contact them. Campbelltown Council has called for a report after suspicious bubbles emerged from a flooded coal seam gas well at Menangle Park. Greens members who filmed the bubbles emerging beside the Nepean River during recent heavy rain say it raises questions about the industry's ability to monitor itself. AGL says the bubbles did not contain methane gas and the wells were sealed. A public hearing on the proposed expansion of AGL's Camden gas project will be held in Campbelltown on February 25. The campaign for lifts to be provided at every Western Sydney train station is gaining momentum. People with disabilities, the elderly and mothers with prams have been calling on successive state governments to provide lifts at stations, including Waterfall, Wentworthville, Doonside and many others. Monica Casca has suffered from the degenerative condition lupus for 4 years, which makes using Toongabbie Station's ramp painful.
It causes me severe pain in my joints. My main problem is my rotation isn't normal anymore, so applying the pressure to go up and down the stairs, very difficult and very painful.
The 34-year-old feels the state government has failed her and the other 1.36 million people in New South Wales with disabilities. The government was required to make 55% of all stations fully accessible to people with disabilities, but only just under 47% of Greater Sydney stations are wheelchair accessible. Transport Minister Gladys Berejiklian blamed the former Labor government for the quota not being met, saying her government had committed $770 million over the next 4 years to make stations accessible. South West Sydney farmers are worried jet fuel will contaminate food and water supplies if the renewed campaign to put Sydney's second airport at Badgerys Creek is successful. Bringelly resident Pauline Rowe, whose poultry farm is on the runway path, has waged a long battle against the proposed airport. But she says concerns about the impact on producers who would lose their livelihoods as well as the safety of food supplies have continued to be ignored. A free public hearing on the airport plan will be held next Friday at the Sydney Business Chamber in Parramatta. The Tenants Union of New South Wales is concerned about the state government's use of words such as rort and fraud during its current amnesty to encourage people to declare or dob in illegal public housing tenants. The union says in most cases where money is owing to the Housing New South Wales, it's not because of a fraud or rort, but about someone's circumstances not fitting the policies. Together with the South West Sydney Tenants Advice and Advocacy Service and Legal Aid New South Wales, the union is encouraging people to heed the amnesty and to contact one of those bodies if they need assistance. The amnesty runs until March 17. Southern Sydney residents have been warned to avoid being bitten by a plague of disease-ridden mosquitoes inhabiting areas along the Georges River. Acting Public Health Director for the South Western Sydney Local Health District, Graham Burgess, says the salt marsh mosquito can spread Ross River virus and Barmah forest virus. He says symptoms of infection may include tiredness, rash and fever, as well as sore and swollen joints. Symptoms can last for weeks or months in some people, and there are no specific treatments. A Liverpool landmark is gearing up to celebrate 2 decades of providing entertainment, escapism and lessons in heroism. As recognisable to locals as some of the city's Francis Greenway designed buildings, the comic book shop will celebrate its 20th anniversary next year.
Popular ones are always the bigger ones, Spider-Man, Batman, X-Men. Well-known ones are the more popular ones generally. I guess because kids already know, I don't know how they know, but they already know, like every kid knows who Superman is and who Spider-Man is, so they always start with them.
Located in front of the Liverpool Library, the store sells a collection of comic books appropriate to all ages and, of course, stocks all of the much-loved classics.
There's a comic out there for everybody. You just got to find the one that you like.
Hundreds of flappers and gangsters have danced their way into the record books in the Blue Mountains. Nearly 300 people donned vintage clothing and danced the Charleston in Leura as part of the Roaring Twenties Festival last Saturday. The previous record for the greatest number of costume people dancing the Charleston stood at 250 and was set in Slovenia in 2008. It will take about 6 weeks for the Guinness Book of World Records to confirm the new record. Staff and students at a southwestern Sydney school could be forgiven for thinking they're seeing double. Twins from 5 families have started kindy at Rosemeadow Public School in 2013, a pretty rare event according to Principal Paul Hughes. Double the fun is also the story at Bosley Park Public School, which has 3 sets of identical twins in its kindergarten classes. Principal Graham Brims says the situation is unusual, but the identical twins have settled in really well. And having their best buddy around certainly helped all the twins. And in sport, registration numbers in Rugby League are at record highs this year, with thousands of junior players signing up for the 2013 season. Kellyville Bushrangers President Mick Tiskins says 400 players have already committed to the club.
Well, look, I think it's a reflection of some of the stuff that was done last year with NRL. There was a big push in regards to players getting out to the community, getting out to school.
He says there's been a definite spike in registration numbers this year, but Rugby League has always been a popular junior sport.
We've been around for about 20 years. We've got from under 6s right through to A grade through the years. It varies year to year, but what's encouraging is the young kids coming through continually. The under 6s every year, we always have 3 or 4 teams.
One of the first players to sign up this season was 10-year club veteran Zachary Barnfield. The 14-year-old signed for the club in 2004 and is one of the youngest players in Parramatta District Rugby League history to reach the membership milestone.
I like rugby league so much just because of the non-stop action, just so awesome. I've been playing it for so long and I'll probably never stop playing.
Registrations at the Bushrangers will continue until the season starts in April. St John's Park resident and former Bulldogs forward Corey Payne has given up his rugby league career to work with disadvantaged youth. The 28-year-old says he chose to retire because his off-field commitments won't allow him to give the required time and dedication to the club. Payne wants to finish a master's degree at Sydney University and complete his Churchill Fellowship. The New South Wales Young Australian of the Year says he hopes working with youth will be as rewarding for him as his footy career was. Parramatta and District Cricket Club will celebrate 150 years in September. The milestone makes Parramatta and District Australia's third oldest cricket club and the oldest to be based continually in the same location. Club secretary and historian Tom Wood says the club is an example of living heritage. Parramatta Cricket Club has produced 3 international, 12 Australian and 44 state cricketers, including Australian leg spinner and Channel 9 commentator Richie Benaud. And finally, for some, Valentine's Day is just like any other day, but for many hopeless romantics, it's a special day to dedicate to celebrating love. Television Sydney News took to the streets of Western Sydney to ask those who have been shot by Cupid's arrow what February 14 means to them and how they will celebrate.
We usually go out for dinner or a nice little drive somewhere.
Give roses to my friends.
Take them to dinner, buy them chocolates, roses, a present.
Yeah, just hang out with friends, with all my single friends, and yeah, just have our own Valentine's Day.
It makes you feel special, and you're letting the other person know too that they are special, because it's a day of remembering that you are worth something to the other person.
That's all for this week's bulletin. For more information on any of these stories, pick up your local Fairfax community newspaper. I'm Bianca Martins. We'll see you next time.